So hello everybody. This is going to be a book haul of books that I actually consigned from a local consignment book shop. I really love this store that I went to. It's called Grassroots Bookstore in Reno, Nevada. And I just wanted to share some of the books that I purchased. I actually went super hard. It was my birthday. And so I spent like 4 hours there just looking at every book they had. And I ended up buying a bunch of books, all of which I probably can't fit into this video. So I'm going to be going over some of my purchases in this video, and be sure to stay tuned for part 2. So the first book that I wanted to mention is People We Met on Vacation by Emily Henry. I actually haven't read an Emily Henry book before, and so I'm really curious to read this one. Some of my favorite booktubers highly recommend this book over some of her others, and this was their favorite, especially since it's summertime as well. I thought it would be a good read if I'm traveling, if I'm on vacation, or if I'm sitting by the beach or pool. I thought this would be a fun one. I haven't read a lot of contemporary romance. I'm very much into fantasy romance and dark romance, but as far as contemporary romance stories, I haven't really dabbled in that much, and so I'm hoping to kind of get into that with this one. And this book was used at $5.99. Next up is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I've been really curious about this one for a long time. I love witchy stories, whether that's contemporary or fantasy fiction. I love a good witch story, especially when there's a sprinkle of romance. So I'm very curious to read this one. And this one was used at $4.99. This is also a paperback. Next was a book that I've actually not seen before and wasn't on my TBR before I walked into the store. However, they had quite a few copies of this book, Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Muro. I have not heard much about this book. It's a big one for sure. This is a paperback, and I purchased it new for $8.99. This consignment store does offer some new paperback or hardcover options. However, I would say about 90 to even 95% of their store is used books. I don't know too much about this one. I'll be honest, I really love to go into a book not knowing almost anything about it. I like to know the genre. If someone who likes things I've read has also enjoyed the book, I kind of go off that recommendation. I'm the same way with movies. I kind of like to walk in blindly because I end up enjoying it way more, and my expectations are so open that it's hard to be disappointed if it's a decent book. So again, I don't know too much about this one. Reading the back, it says, England, 1882. In Victorian London, two children with mysterious powers are haunted by a figure of darkness, a man made of smoke. So that's all I'm going to read for this one, but it is highly rated, and this is an international bestseller. The next two books I want to talk about are part of the Mortal Instruments series. This is a series I actually haven't read before. It is YA, and I was a huge fan, especially in high school, of the Mortal Instruments movie. I am kind of bummed I watched the movie before I read the books because I can already tell this is a story that I'm going to love. So I've already thrifted the first book in the series. This is, from my understanding, books 2 and 3. So I have City of Ashes and I have City of Glass. So I'm really curious to jump into this series. I might do like a reading vlog or try to get it done within a week or something like that. So again, stay tuned. And if you've read these books and enjoyed them, please let me know, especially if you read them as an adult and not a young adult. I'm curious what your thoughts were. Again, I haven't read a lot of Cassandra Clare before, and I'm really curious to get into some of her writing. Each of these was used and was $3.99. Next up is Eleanor Oliphant. I think I'm saying it correctly. And this is by Gail Honeyman. I haven't heard too much about this book, but one of my favorite booktubers recently read it and put it on their top 10 books that they've ever read. So I'm really curious to go into this one. At the beginning of the summary, it just says, meet Eleanor Oliphant. She struggles with appropriate social skills and tends to say exactly what she's thinking. Nothing is missing in her carefully timetabled life, where weekends mostly consist of frozen pizza, vodka, and phone calls with mommy. So I think this book will be really fun to read. It's definitely a contemporary story. It's not fantasy like I normally stick to, but again, I've heard great things about this. This is a Reese's Book Club highlighted book. I read Starling House, which was also a Reese's Book Club recommendation, and so I am curious to try another one of her recommendations. And this book was $2.99. Next up, I bought Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I've actually never read Pride and Prejudice. I have watched the movie though, and I love the movie. It's amazing. It's one of those ones where I'm like so into the characters and the actors and the actresses, and I've seen it so many times that I almost feel like reading the book would be disappointing no matter what because I love the movie so much. So I haven't given the book by Jane Austen a chance. I probably will in the future, but I thought that this was going to be different enough from the movie, which I love, and still have a lot of those core elements and pieces and turn it into something completely new. And surprisingly, this book gets like crazy good reviews. Again, I really don't know what I'm getting into, but I love horror and I love Pride and Prejudice, so I really feel like I can't go wrong with this one. And this one was used at $2.99. Next up, I bought Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is another highly rated book. A lot of my favorite booktubers have great things to say about this one. It is a meatier book, but I am excited to get into it. I purchased it used for $5.99, and this is my first Kristen Hanna book, but I know a lot of those people who like her love a lot of her books. So I do love an author who's consistent across the board. That way, if I really do love her writing, I can know what to expect with other books. I don't know too much about this one, and there's not quite a summary on the back. It's kind of phrased in an interesting way, but it sounds like it's going to be set in World War II. And other than that, I don't really know too much, so I'm super excited to jump into it. Next is The House of Hollow. This one was also $2.99. It was a used copy. I believe this is a YA novel, and I actually heard from someone that this book is like super emotional. Someone in my book club just read it and was like devastated by the ending, and most people could be turned off by that, but it intrigued me even more. So now I kind of want to know what this book's about. She didn't tell me any details. The beginning of the summary on the back though says Iris Hollow and her two older sisters are unquestionably strange. As children, they disappeared on a Scottish city street only to return a month later with no memory of where they'd been or what had happened to them. More troubling, their appearance began to change. Their blue eyes are now black, their dark hair now white, and as they grew older, odd, eerie occurrences seemed to follow in their wake. So sounds like kind of a mystery. Maybe there's some fantasy elements, maybe not, I'm not sure. Really excited to jump into this one. And this is a pretty short novel. Again, I believe it's YA, so that's probably why, but I do love to break it up with a shorter novel. And I'm not sure if you can see the font, but it is pretty large. Next is a really beautiful copy of the Grimm's Fairy Tales. I've been doing a lot of writing inspired by the Grimm's Fairy Tales lately. I've been doing retellings within different genre portrayals. So this was super catching to me. I thought it was really beautiful. As you can see, it's got some foil for the tree leaves and trunks, and then it's got this gold foiled title on the front. This has gold edged pages, and I just thought it was really beautiful. I love antique books. There's even some artwork on the inside, so I just thought this was a really beautiful addition. I don't actually own a copy or collection of Grimm's Fairy Tales, so I thought this would be really beautiful. And if you've seen my recent video, I am renovating my office and there's tons of shelf space, so I am gonna have to find books and other items to decorate those shelves with, and I really wanted to use some antique books on those shelves. So this is kind of an in-between where the price was right and it is new, but it looks like a beautiful antique book. And I believe this one was $10.99 since it is new. It's also hardcover and it is this unique edition. And the last two books I'm going to talk about for part one of this video are Six of Crows and The Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. One of these was used and the other copy I bought new. Unfortunately, the consigned copy was really beat up and this one's in great condition. I am assuming I will like these books. I've heard great things about them, and from my understanding, it's a fantasy romance. Could be wrong about that, not sure. But again, some of my favorite booktubers that I really do rely on really enjoy these books. So the used copy was $5.99 and the new copy was $9.10. These are New York Times bestsellers, and she also has the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which I haven't had an opportunity to read yet. That is on Kindle Unlimited, and I am super excited to read those if I enjoy these. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed this, please feel free to subscribe. I love consigning and thrifting books, and I particularly look for books that are not available on Kindle Unlimited. I do have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, so I'm always trying to save money where I can, hence why I always look for thrift or consignment books if I'm looking for a paperback because it's not available on Kindle. Sometimes I do occasionally buy copies, physical copies of some of my favorite books, but again, that's pretty occasionally. family, I usually am trying to find the cheapest way to read the books that I want without having to rent them from a library or wait on the library wait list. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe so that you can see part 2. And like I said, I will be doing a bunch of these in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have read any of these before and have any recommendations for me, please let me know. If I got any of the genres wrong for these, I'm sorry. Like I said, I kind of like to walk in blindly, but I'm pretty open as far as my genres. So usually it doesn't lead me astray. And I really hope to see you guys in the future on my channel. And thank you for watching.